Hello, my home chefs. Welcome to Crystal's Guide for the Home Chef. Today we're going to be making a meatloaf dinner. Yes, it's a simple classic, but I'm going to give you some tricks on how to make your meatloaf more nutrient dense and how to keep it a little fluffy. Not fluffy like bread fluffy, but we don't want this hard brick of meat that is hard to chew. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add some onions, some celery, some carrots, some garlic, and we're going to even throw some parsley in there. Now these vegetables we're going to throw in our food processor because I want them to come into little nice pieces, whereas you could hand dice or mince it. However, that's what we have food processors for, right? Let's use that food processor if you have one. If not, once you'll see how small I make the vegetables, then you can see how small to cut your vegetables. And the reason we want them so small is because I don't like when I go to places and eat meatloaf at a restaurant, I have these huge chunks of carrots in it. Now, even though it's great that they're adding the carrots, however, the main attraction of the meatloaf is the meat, right? However, we want to make sure that our families, ourselves, and our guests are getting a good portion of vegetables and nutrients when they dine with us. And so I'm going to show you how that is done. Of course, we're going to put our eggs and breadcrumbs in there. We're actually going to add some oats too. That's another good way to get your grains in. People don't even know it's there because we're going to put that in the food processor as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Here I have some of my vegetables. I went ahead and took the tops and the bottoms off my carrots. I use a green kitchen scrubber to clean the outside. I don't peel my carrots. And so what I'm going to do is just cut these down into smaller pieces around the same size. So when I put it in the food processor, they cut evenly. So let's go ahead and finish up these carrots. All right, here we go. Let's use some celery. I took the bottom off. I used my celery leaves. I took a very little bit off the top, just the brown parts, because I want to keep the leaves as well. They are very nutritious. They're nice and tender and will add great flavor to the meatloaf. And again, we're going to cut these down to smaller pieces around the same size as the carrots because we are going to process those together. All right, here we go. Let's get these vegetables into the food processor. We're going to put the carrots and the celery at the same time. I think I prepped too many vegetables, and so I think we're only going to use one processor full of vegetables. The leftover vegetables can be used to create a stock, a vegetable stock, or if you're going to start a soup. All right, and our vegetables here, we have maybe about 1.5 to 2 cups of the processed vegetables or minced vegetables, and we're going to use that. And for now, we're just going to set it to the side. Okay, I have some garlic here. We're going to add some garlic, and what I'm going to do is just use my knife to smash those. And it's easier to take the skins off when you smash it this way. And since we're not using the whole garlic cloves, it doesn't matter if the cloves get busted up. And we're going to take the skins off of those and throw those in our food processor as well. Next up, onion. We're going to use this whole onion. And I'm going to just take the skins off, and I'm going to also cut this down into smaller pieces so it processes well and evenly. And my processor has 2 settings, a chop and a grind. And all it does is the blade goes in one direction, and with the other button, the blade goes in the other direction. So I use both of them to kind of get things jumping around and mixed evenly. You see that? Nice and processed and chopped up. Moving on to our next step. But first, let's put these onions away. All right. Now we're adding some oats. This is a 1/2 cup measure. I'm going to do a total of 3/4 cups. So I put in a 1/2 cup and a 1/4 cup. There we go. Next, adding fennel seed. Fennel seed is a good way to get your flavor built up, and it has great flavor as well. And we're going to process that with the oats because I want the fennel seed to break down as well. I don't want them whole. I want the aromatic to be spread throughout the meatloaf. You can see how small that is. And we're going to put that in a bowl and put it to the side for when we get ready to build our oatmeal. Now I have 1 bunch of parsley, and this is a pretty large bunch of parsley, but I'm going to go ahead and use it all. I didn't put this in the processor because I did not want it to turn into a puree. And so I'm just going to chop this up, keep moving my big leaves to the inside of the pile, and so that gets chopped up really nice and evenly. We're going to go ahead and put that to the side as well. Now for our seasoning blend. So I'm going to add a tablespoon of onion powder and garlic powder. My measuring spoon is only a 1/2 tablespoon, so I have to do it twice. And we're going to add some paprika. This seasoning blend is a good base for any seasoning blend that you want to make. Onion powder, garlic powder, paprika. I do the 1-to-1 ratio on the garlic and onion powder and half that amount in paprika. I add pepper to what I desire. Some people might like less pepper, some people might like more pepper. And usually the salt has to go with how much you like as well. There I added some Himalayan salt, and I also added some celery salt. And that is just to build a more complex and delicious flavor. Next, we're going to add some dry basil, and I added a tablespoon of that as well. And we're going to mix this all up, and we're going to put it to the side, and that is going to be our seasoning mix for our meatloaf. Okay, on to the next step. The beef. 80-20 beef. Like I said, we want to keep some of that fat moisture in there. If you're concerned about your fat intake, then you can go ahead and use an amount with less fat. Just remember that your meatloaf will be a little denser because it has less fat in it to kind of break up that density. We're adding 3 eggs to this mix. And then we're going to go ahead and add a 1/4 cup of seasoned breadcrumbs. Those are seasoned with Romano. 3 tablespoons of our seasoning mix. Next, we're going to go ahead and add our oats, our parsley, our onion mix, as well as our celery and carrot mix. Now we're going to go ahead and just get in there and mix it up. Make sure you mix it really well. You can see on the video that I am scraping the sides with my hands, and that's just to ensure that all the ingredients get mixed into the meat. Just knead it like dough, punch it a couple of times if you have to, bam, 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 bam. And just make sure it all gets thoroughly mixed through and through. There's no time limit. Now we're gonna pull out our pan. We're gonna go ahead and put our meatloaf mix on our pan. This is the smallest and biggest pan that I have for my countertop convection oven. And so that's why my pan is a small round pan and my meatloaf is large. Anyway, I want to go ahead and pack this meatloaf tight. I want it to remain a nice solid texture throughout. Try to keep it from having any weak spots in the middle. So I'm just going to pack it, and I'm going to shape it at the same time because I want a nice rectangular shape. I want it to be pleasing to the eye when I bake it. So I'm just making sure that this meatloaf has a nice rectangular shape. And in the middle, what I did is just created a small indentation just so when the meatloaf starts to cook, what's going to happen, the middle is going to start to bulge a little bit. And so by adding a little slight indentation in the middle, that'll help your meatloaf to rise evenly. So let's go ahead and we're going to put this in our oven for about 45 minutes to an hour at 350 degrees. And we're going to start that now. Here is our beautiful meatloaf. You can see where juices drained off the top from when I checked the temperature. You want to cook it to about 165 degrees or higher. You don't want to go less than 165 because you want to make sure your meat is cooked all the way through. Here is our finished meatloaf. Doesn't that just look beautiful? With all the vegetables that's speckled throughout but still have that meatiness. I went ahead and paired this beautiful meatloaf with some homemade mashed potatoes, some mixed vegetables, a little bit of sauteed peppered onions and mushrooms for the top, some brown gravy. I am so excited and I hope you are too.